The studio lights hit Greg Gutfeld like a spotlight in a boxing ring, bright enough to wash out half the set and still somehow make his grin look sharper. He walked out with that familiar swagger, part comedian, part guy, who knows the cameras are addicted to him. The band didn't even finish the last note before he dropped into his chair, leaned back like he'd paid rent on the desk, and looked straight into the lens. "All right," he said, voice calm but charged, "tonight we're doing something different. Not the usual punchline parade. Not the predictable food fight. Tonight is about what happens when power thinks it can bully the microphone." The crowd laughed, then quieted when his expression didn't soften. He tapped the desk once, like a judge calling a room to order. "Because I got a message today," he continued, "and it didn't come from a fan. It came from a very angry man who believes the entire country is his comment section." He let that line hang just long enough for the audience to lean forward. "You know what I learned after doing this job?" Greg asked. "The loudest people don't hate being mocked. They hate being challenged." He paused. "And tonight, we're going to challenge something simple. The idea that yelling lawsuit is the same as proving you're right." A ripple ran through the crowd, half amused, half curious. Greg reached under the desk and pulled out a plain manila folder. No label, just a thick strip of red tape across the front with one word in all caps: confidential. He held it up like a prop in a courtroom drama, then set it down gently like it mattered. "Before you panic," he said, "this is not classified. It's not a leak. It's not a hack. It's something far more dangerous to a certain type of ego. It's a record. It's receipts. It's the stuff that doesn't care how loud you get." The screen behind him flickered to life. Not flashy graphics, just a clean timeline with dates and headlines, like a documentary. Greg nodded toward it. "We've all watched this pattern for years. Anytime someone disagrees, it's, 'You're fired. You're fake. You're corrupt. I'll sue.' The threat is always the same: shut up or pay." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "And that brings us to tonight's star guest, because apparently the President of the United States saw my monologue last week and decided this was the moment to, how do I put this, try to dunk on me." He smiled. "Which is adorable, like watching a lion try to do ballet. A lot of confidence, not a lot of balance." The audience laughed, but the laugh had a nervous edge because everyone could feel the turn coming. Greg lifted a small remote and clicked. The screen switched to a short clip of a rally crowd, loud music, flashing lights, and Trump on a stage pointing at a camera. Gutfeld, Trump's voice boomed from the speakers, is a total lightweight. He talks tough, but he's scared. And I'm going to prove it. He won't say it to my face. The clip cut. Greg stared into the camera and gave a slow nod. "Well," he said quietly, "he's right about one thing. I am going to say it to his face." He looked off camera toward the side entrance, because in about 30 seconds, he's walking through that door. You could feel it in the room, the kind of electricity where people stop checking their phones and start checking exits. Greg didn't fill the silence. He just sat there, calm as a man who'd already seen the ending. The side door opened. Not a polite entrance, a hard push, like the door owed him money. Donald Trump marched in with that unmistakable posture, chin up, shoulders squared, the same red tie like a flag. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He walked like a man arriving to repossess the studio. A stagehand stepped toward him with a mic, and Trump took it without looking. The audience's reaction came in waves. Some cheers, some gasps, some stunned silence. Trump didn't wait for the host to welcome him. He pointed straight at Greg like a prosecutor. "You've been saying disgusting things," Trump snapped, voice already elevated, "and you're going to regret it. You're a third-rate comedian on a second-rate show. You don't tell the truth, you tell stories. And you're going to be sued. Big." Greg didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just looked up at Trump like a guy listening to a toddler threaten to call the police. "Mr. President," Greg said, smooth as oil, "thank you for coming. I'm honored you could fit us into your schedule between posting and threatening." The crowd laughed and Trump's jaw tightened. Greg continued before Trump could interrupt. "Here's the deal. You've built a brand on one trick. When someone questions you, you don't answer them. You threaten them. Tonight, you're going to do something new. You're going to respond to facts." Trump scoffed. "Facts? You don't know facts. You know ratings. You're desperate." He stepped closer to the desk, looming. "You want facts? Here's a fact. I win. I always win. And you," he waved the mic around Greg's head like it was a fly swatter, "are going to lose." Greg nodded, unfazed. "Perfect," he said. "Then you won't mind doing something winners do. You won't mind going on the record." He clicked the remote. The screen changed again, this time to a simple list titled "The Threat Playbook." Under it, sue, smear, intimidate, move on. Greg tapped the folder on the desk. "This folder," he said, "is a compilation of the public pattern. Not rumors, not gossip. Your own words, your own filings, your own quotes. And I want you to explain on live television why this is your go-to move whenever anyone questions you." He leaned forward, because here's the twist. When you threaten a lawsuit, you're not proving you're right. You're proving you want people too scared to find out. Trump's face reddened. "I'm not scared of anything," he barked. "I've fought tougher people than you. You're nothing." He turned to the crowd like he was at a rally. "This guy, he's a nobody. He sits there and reads off papers like he's some judge. I built an empire. He built a desk." Greg smiled. "You built a brand," he corrected. "And brands collapse when people realize the label is louder than the product." He pressed the remote again. The screen displayed a crisp headline-style graphic. Tonight's question: do threats replace truth? Under it, a second line: yes or no. The audience murmured. Trump laughed, sharp, mocking. "This is stupid. This is a setup." He leaned in, voice lowering, trying for menace. "You're playing a dangerous game." Greg finally sat up straighter, not angry, focused. "Good," he said, "because the country's tired of games. Here's what we're going to do. You keep saying you'll sue anyone who criticizes you. Fine, but lawsuits have something you hate: discovery." The audience reacted at the word like it was a grenade. Greg held up a finger. "Discovery is where people stop yelling and start producing documents under oath." He looked Trump dead in the eye. "So if you want to threaten lawsuits, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Are you willing to answer questions under oath in a real case? No speeches. No rallies. Just sworn answers." Trump's eyes narrowed. "I've answered plenty," he snapped, though the confidence sounded rehearsed. Greg nodded. "Great. Then let's practice." On live TV. He clicked again. The screen displayed 3 short prompts like deposition questions. 1. When you say "I'll sue," what exactly are you claiming is false? 2. What evidence would you introduce? 3. What facts would you concede under oath? Greg didn't raise his voice. "Pick one." Trump barked a laugh. "This is not a courtroom. This is television." He jabbed the mic at Greg. "And on television, I can tell you you're a liar and everybody knows it." Greg's expression didn't change. "Exactly," he said. "On television, you can say anything. In court, you can't. A beat. That's why you love TV and hate discovery." The crowd reacted, some claps, some oohs. Trump took a step forward like he wanted to crowd Greg out physically. "You're trying to trap me," he said, voice rising. "You're trying to embarrass the president." Greg shrugged. "No," he said. "You tried to embarrass me. I'm just asking you to do the one thing you demand of everyone else. Prove it." He reached into the folder and pulled out a single page, held it up to the camera. The screen zoomed in, a large stamp across the top, "Reading Draft," and beneath it, a line of text, "Media Response Template, default to threat of legal action." Greg set it down. This is satire, he said, holding up a hand, because I can't claim it's your real internal memo. But here's the point. Everyone can see the template. Everyone knows the move. You do it in public, constantly. Trump snapped, so you admit it's fake. Greg nodded calmly. I admit it's a demonstration of the pattern, he said. Because the pattern is public. It's in your posts, your speeches, your threats. Greg leaned closer. Let's do something you don't expect. Let's remove the theatrics. No names, no insults, no traitor labels. Just one policy question. He clicked again. The screen showed a single topic. War powers, A&D Congress. Greg kept his tone neutral. Do you believe you need Congress's approval before escalating a military action overseas beyond a limited strike? Trump's eyes flashed. I'm the commander-in-chief, he said sharply. I don't need permission from weak politicians to protect America. The crowd murmured again. Greg nodded like a teacher, hearing a student recite a slogan. Okay, he said. So you believe executive power should be unilateral when you decide. He clicked again. A new line appeared beneath the topic. Follow-up. Do you accept limits on that power? Greg held Trump's gaze. Yes or no? Trump's lip curled. I accept the Constitution, he said, like he'd won. Greg smiled slightly. Perfect. Then you accept Article 1 gives Congress war powers. Trump started to interrupt. Greg continued smoothly. You can't claim the Constitution as a shield and ignore it as a leash. The audience reacted louder now. Claps, scattered cheers. Trump's face reddened. You're twisting, he snapped. You're a twist artist. Greg leaned back. And you're a threat artist, he said. Watch. He gestured toward the camera. America, count how fast he gets to lawsuit. Greg turned back to Trump. If you think I'm lying, sue me. But if you sue me, you'll have to sit for deposition. You'll have to answer questions under oath. You'll have to produce documents. And you'll have to live with something you can't control. The record. Greg tapped the desk twice. So do it. File it. Trump's jaw clenched. I will, he hissed. Believe me. Greg nodded. Great, he said. Then I'm going to offer you something. A way to prove you're as fearless as you say. He clicked again. The screen displayed a large, bold challenge, the live truth test. Under it, 1 hour. No insults. Fact check in real time. Greg looked back at Trump. You stay right here. We pull up your claims. We fact check them live. You get to respond. If you're right, you win. If you're wrong, you admit it. Simple. He paused. No lawyers, no threats, just truth. The crowd stirred at the audacity of it. Trump's eyes darted. For the first time, he looked like a man calculating odds instead of enjoying noise. That's a trap, he said, quieter. Greg didn't pounce. He just waited. If it's a trap, Greg said softly, it's only because facts trap liars. The audience oohed again. Trump stiffened and shot back to volume. I'm not doing your little game, he barked. You want to know why? Because you're not important enough. You're a clown. I don't negotiate with clowns. Greg nodded like that was the answer he expected. There it is, he said, turning to the camera. When the option is either facts or insults, he chooses insults. Trump pointed at Greg. You're disgusting, he said. You're a disgrace. Greg didn't react. Then this should be easy, he said. Answer one more question. He clicked again. The screen showed another simple line. Do you stand by every threat you've made against your critics? Greg held Trump's gaze. Because if you do, you'll stand by them in court, under oath. Trump lifted the mic like a gavel. I stand by defending myself, he said. I stand by fighting back. Greg nodded. Right, he said. Fighting back. Not proving. He leaned in. That's the difference. You confuse aggression with strength. He tapped the desk. Strength is what you do when you can't hide behind volume. Trump snapped. You're lecturing me? Greg smiled. Yes, he said. Because you showed up here to lecture me with threats. The audience laughed. Louder. Trump's face tightened. Then he pivoted, classic move, toward the crowd. These people, he said, they love me. They know what's real. He pointed at Greg again. This guy? He's playing games. I'm doing big things. Big. Greg nodded slowly. Big things, he repeated. Then your ego won't mind one small thing. He leaned forward, eyes locked. Say this sentence on live TV. I will not threaten lawsuits to silence critics. I will answer the criticism with facts. Greg held a beat. Say it. If you're strong. The studio went so quiet you could hear someone's bracelet clink. Trump stared at Greg like he'd been handed a contract in a language he didn't speak. He tightened his grip on the mic. For a split second, it looked like he might say it, might try to power through. Then he shook his head once, sharply. I'm not going to read your script, he snapped. Greg nodded. Exactly, he said. Because the only script you like is the one where you're always right. Trump's anger surged back. You're done, he hissed. I'll ruin you. Greg's voice stayed calm, almost gentle. You can't ruin me, he said. You can only reveal yourself. Greg clicked one last time. The screen displayed a simple montage. Trump saying, I'll sue in different clips, different years, different targets. The room filled with the echo of the same phrase, repeated again and again like a chorus. Trump's face changed as he watched his own words stack up, not as isolated moments, but as a pattern. He stepped backward half a pace, then caught himself and stepped forward again, trying to reclaim space. You're cherry-picking, Trump shouted, but it sounded thinner now. Greg nodded. And you're threat-picking, he said. That's why you're here. He leaned forward. You came to own me, but all you did was walk into a room where your usual tricks don't work. Greg spread his hands. Here's the truth, Mr. President. You can dominate a rally. You can drown out a reporter. You can intimidate a staffer. But you can't intimidate a record. And you can't sue your way out of reality. Trump stared at him, breathing heavy. The crowd was no longer split. They were watching, not cheering, watching like they understood this was the moment. Greg didn't smile. He didn't gloat, he just delivered the last line like a verdict. If you want to be taken seriously, stop threatening. Start answering. He held a beat. And if you can't answer, don't blame me. Blame the facts. For a second, Trump looked like he might explode again. His shoulders lifted. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed to slits. Then something else flashed through. Calculation. Fatigue. The realization that more yelling would only feed the clip montage behind him. He took a step back. Then another. He lifted the mic like he wanted a final punch, but no words came. He swallowed, forced a grin that didn't reach his eyes. This show is a joke, he said finally. You're a joke. He turned toward the door, but this time, no dramatic slam, no victory speech. He just walked. The audience didn't erupt into chaos. They stayed mostly quiet, letting the exit speak. When the door clicked shut behind him, Greg didn't chase him with insults. He didn't celebrate. He just turned back to the camera with a steady expression that felt almost tired, like a man who'd watched the same scene too many times. That, he said softly, is what it looks like when intimidation meets a boundary. He gestured at the desk. He didn't come here to debate. He came here to threaten. And when threats don't work, the person behind them runs out of lines. A few claps started, hesitant at first, then growing. Greg nodded once, like a small acknowledgement. Not a bow. If you're watching at home, he continued, remember this. You don't have to match volume with volume. You don't have to scream back. You don't have to threaten back. You just have to ask one question and keep asking it. Where's the evidence? He held a beat. That question terrifies the people who survive on noise. The applause built, not wild, but steady and real. Greg glanced down at the folder again, then pushed it aside like he didn't need it anymore. Because tonight wasn't about a folder, he said. It was about a choice. You can let power bully the conversation, or you can demand it earns the conversation. He looked into the lens. And the fastest way to expose a bully is not to insult him. It's to deny him the thing he needs most. Your fear. He paused. That's all. Good night, the lights dimmed. The band finally played. But the air in the room didn't feel like a comedy show anymore. It felt like a lesson people didn't know they needed. Somewhere outside the studio, the headlines were already forming, the clips already cutting, the moment already turning into an echo. And the loudest part of the night wasn't Trump's threats. It was the quiet space after he left. The space where the audience realized the script had flipped, and the bully had nothing left but the door.